Hello everyone, welcome to the Film Feast's review of Star Wars: The Force Awakens, directed by J.J. Abrams. In October of 2012, Disney acquired Lucasfilm for a little over $4 billion, and it would forever change what we know to be the future of Star Wars. I can't really say I had my finger on the pulse of Star Wars fandom in late 2012. I hadn't even caught up with the Clone Wars, and I figured, hey, maybe more television shows would come down the line eventually, but other than that, I didn't think that Star Wars had much of a near future. But after the Disney acquisition, the new president of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, came forward saying that her #1 priority was new Star Wars films. For some, this filled them with dread, thinking, oh no, the House of Mouse taking on my precious Star Wars? No! But for many sensible thinkers like myself, we thought this could mean good things. We had seen what Disney and Marvel had done with the Avengers, and that was one of my favorite films of 2012. So at this point in time, I was extremely anxious to see what Disney would do with Star Wars. But then my mind started racing. Who would be the first to direct a new Star Wars movie? David Fincher, Brad Bird, and Guillermo del Toro were all talked about, and I thought, hey, maybe Joe Cornish or Edgar Wright or Rian Johnson could do a great job as well. But who they actually announced as the director blew me away. J.J. Abrams. I thought to myself, whoa, wait, the guy who rebooted Star Trek is going to make a new Star Wars film? Can they even do that? Well, it's Hollywood, Sam. They can do anything. This was especially surprising because of all the times that I read J.J. Abrams saying that he didn't want to direct a Star Wars movie, that he was too big of a fan to even want to touch Star Wars. And now, almost 3 years after J.J. Abrams was hired on, I am pleased to say that he did a good job. Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, was written by J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan, and stars Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, Adam Driver, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, and a sprawling supporting cast. Everyone in this movie is wonderful, and most of these actors are playing characters that we can get on board with. And not just that, but also root for and be invested in and want to follow to further movies down the line. But as good as this new cast is, this movie would not function nearly as well had the old cast not returned. And it's extremely important to note that these aren't just puffed up cameos. These actors are embodying these roles all over again in the best way possible. And I'm not talking about fan service. These actors are becoming these characters all over again, like they had never stepped out of the roles. There are multiple moments where I was like, yep, that's Leia. Yep, that's Han. But it is important that I take some time to talk about this new cast because they are the real strength of this movie. And one of J.J. Abrams' big priorities with The Force Awakens was passing the torch from one generation to another. John Boyega plays Finn, a stormtrooper in the First Order who decides to defect and help a resistance pilot by the name of Poe Dameron escape. Poe and Finn are shot down and crash land on the planet of Jakku, where Finn eventually meets Rey, played by Daisy Ridley. She's a scavenger with nothing in life except the hope that one day her family will return. Finn and Rey, along with a droid by the name of BB-8, have to escape Jakku and flee the First Order. Quickly, they find themselves to be involved in a plot much bigger than either of them could have ever imagined. I can't say it enough. I love this cast of characters, and that seems to be a unanimous sentiment going around the internet. But I have seen some criticisms, like these are interesting characters but nothing exciting is done with them, or they have no foundation, and I just don't understand that. Finn is the reluctant hero who just loves to play up the fact that he's this brave turncoat to the First Order, when it actually turns out that he just wants to run and get as far away from them as possible. It's in The Force Awakens when Finn must learn the responsibility to take up arms with the Resistance and fight what he hates most about the First Order. Rey is the uber heroine who's just good at everything, what some may call a Mary Sue, but I actually believe her to be more a hero who doesn't understand her own capabilities. And Adam Driver as Kylo Ren is one of the best, and I mean best, villains I have seen in a very long time. I don't want that to sound like hyperbole because it's true. He's not a Darth Vader clone. He embodies some traits that Vader had, but he is a much different villain. And I won't go into detail with that because I don't want this review to spoil you more than it may already have. I'll just say this. One of his best traits as a villain is that he is unpredictable. I could go on much longer talking about this extended cast, and this video would be 40 minutes long. But I do want to talk about one other character who was a bit of a letdown. Captain Phasma, played by Gwendolyn Christie. And that's not to say that Christie did a bad job, there just wasn't much of a job to do. Phasma had a few scenes. Emphasis on few. And sure, I've seen the word passed around that she's like the new Boba Fett. I even said it at first, but Boba Fett actually did stuff. And granted, Captain Phasma is coming back for more movies, but in the context of this movie, it was a bit of a bummer to see her just stand there most of the time. She gave like one sinister order and that was it. She was played up immensely well in the trailers and marketing for this film, and I'll admit, I gave in. Hook, line, and sinker. But I justify these purchases by knowing that Captain Phasma will be back. The only detriment to focusing on these characters so much is that the events around them aren't as finely tuned. I don't even really mind the fact that a lot of the events in The Force Awakens mirror those of the original trilogy, especially A New Hope. It's like poetry, you know? It rhymes. Only it's incidental, so it's not even that big of a deal. I don't know why people are complaining so much about it. My biggest qualm with the writing on this story is the fact that there's no political context, and I know that that's not a phrase that Star Wars fans love to hear, what with trade negotiations and all that, but that's not what I'm talking about. Nothing so specific or droll. What's the deal with the First Order? Where did they come from? Why is the Empire essentially still around in the form of the First Order? And why is the Resistance getting so beaten down by them? These are questions that could be easily answered by looking into some of the new expanded universe material, but I'm talking about within the context of the movie. And that's what's important about this review, is I'm talking about this movie as a movie. And I'm not talking about one small piece of a much larger franchise. The Force Awakens is a movie, and this is a movie review. That being said, the basic structure of this movie is very easy to swallow, and it provides for some extremely thrilling set pieces. The action in The Force Awakens is purposeful. It's not empty in any way, shape, or form, because we know why these characters have gotten themselves into this situation and how they've gotten themselves there. It's exciting, even when it's kind of silly. And that's one of the things I love the most about J.J. Abrams, is that he knows how to mix the light moments with the heavy, dark moments without it ever feeling like too much of a tonal shift. There are some of these dialogue-heavy scenes when a character says something that doesn't exactly sound like it would come from a Star Wars movie, and I'm just like, oh yeah, that's J.J. Abrams talking right there. It feels like Abrams did this the most with the character of Finn, which I think is great because Boyega and Abrams just seem to work so well together. But I think one of the best themes that Kasdan and Abrams utilized in the script was that of evil. What does the dark side mean? After seeing The Force Awakens a first and second time, I realized the original and prequel trilogies just scratched the surface of what the dark side meant. Yes, it's the evil, seducing side of the Force that could take you from your highest highs and bring you down. The Force Awakens almost reinvents the dark side, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It still retains all of the qualities that it had from the original and prequel trilogies, but it is just so much more imposing in The Force Awakens. The Force in general is something that I just can't wait to explore more in future films, and while we have this pantheon of material that is the Star Wars legacy, where I could just go and look up what is the Force, it's so much better in a cinematic language. These actors are brilliant. The way they embody the roles of hero and villain, good and evil, that's how I read into the Force. It's not some episode of the Clone Wars where Yoda goes on a mythical journey and finds out the mysteries of the Force. It's in these movies because they parallel so much of what real life is about. Now I know I said earlier that I was just going to use this review to talk about The Force Awakens as a singular film, but I can't deny the fact that it is a part of a bigger franchise, and the fact that Episode 8 is coming up and it's going to be directed by Rian freaking Johnson. I know for a fact that he's gonna kill it. He's gonna write and direct the fuck out of Episode 8. But I do hope that he opens up the story just a little bit more. Yes, The Force Awakens did a fantastic job of setting up these characters, and I hope Episode 8 does just as good of a job as sticking with these characters. But I want to see just a little bit more of the world that they exist in now. In conclusion, The Force Awakens is a great Star Wars movie. It's great for fans, it's great for casual watchers, and it's great for newcomers. And it brings back what fans have been wanting from Star Wars for decades. The action mixes some of the best elements of superhero movies from the last 15 years with Star Wars of old, and the characters are worth rooting for. That is so important. I can't put enough emphasis on that. I wish the story was just a little bolder and a little broader, but I can't complain too much because the movie we still got was damn good. This is just the first step into a beautiful new galaxy that I am so happy Disney ended up taking the reins on. Kathleen Kennedy is incredibly smart, and I trust her just as much, if not more than I do Kevin Feige with the Marvel movies. I sincerely cannot wait to see what comes next, but until then, Star Wars The Force Awakens is a movie that rewards repeat viewing, so I'm gonna try and get back to the movie theater as quick as I can, and I'm gonna give Star Wars The Force Awakens a strong 8 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching this video review. I know it's only my second one this year, and hopefully I'll be able to do some more in 2016, but rest assured, Star Wars The Force Awakens was one I had to go all out for, and I also plan on doing a review with my mom. She got me into Star Wars. She was one of the first people to ever see A New Hope because she was in the press. I also want to do a fun little review over Skype with my nephew, who has really been getting into the movies in the last 5 years. I gave him a lot of my old Star Wars toys just because I knew that he was going to really appreciate the franchise the same way that I did as a kid. How do you feel about Star Wars The Force Awakens? Do you agree with a lot of the points I made in this video? Or did you not like The Force Awakens and you felt like it really fell short in a lot of areas? I've been seeing a few people that have been tearing this movie apart, and I really genuinely want to know what you guys think, so comment below and let me know. Don't forget, you can like the Film Feast on Facebook, and if you want to follow me outside of this channel, I'm also on Twitter at the Film Feast, and I have a Letterboxd page where I review movies all the time. I'm always watching stuff, so you can get a good idea of what I'm into, and I'll put links to all that stuff in the D box below. And please like this video if you appreciated it. Don't give it a thumbs down if you disagree with my review, because that ultimately hurts me as a creator. This is just my opinion, and I'm a big supporter of a singular experience when going to watch movies. If you liked a movie, cool. If you didn't like a movie, that's too bad. Maybe go watch another movie and make yourself feel better. Don't listen to critics, don't listen to me, just go out there and explore movies. I have been Sam Donches for the Film Feast. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and go out there and enjoy J.J. Abrams' Star Wars The Force Awakens.